Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. It's a great Sunday. Great to have you with us. We are going to be talking in just a moment with Deanna Price. Deanna is a property manager, assistant property manager with us at New Concepts Management. She's also a member of the Legislative Action Committee with CAI, Community Associations Institute. She's been the chair of the Legislative Action Committee for CIC Midwest, organization with the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association. And we're sure glad she's with us. And she's certainly keeping us up to date with everything that's going on with the legislature. And we'll be talking with her in just a moment. But I'd like to let our listeners know in the second hour we've got a great free gift for you. It's a subscription to our bi-monthly newsletter. All you need to do is give us a call at 952-922-2500. Ask for Courtney, and she'll make sure that you start receiving your subscription. We've got over 18,000 subscribers now. You can receive that by the mail or electronically. Well, let's turn our attention now, Tony, to some things that are taking place at the state level. Minnesota State Legislature's in session. And a person that we are sure glad is watching closely all of the antics of those people up on the Hill is our very own Dee Price. Hi, Dee.
Hi, thanks, Gene.
Hi, Dee.
Hi, Tony.
We want to talk to you about what is looks like a reprise of Senate File 926. It was introduced by State Senator Chris Gerlach from Apple Valley last year. And tell our listeners, Dee, briefly what this particular bill is, introducing.
Sure. This is actually the bill that we're probably watching most closely over at the CAI Legislative Action Committee. It appeared last year and had a number of provisions that we felt are detrimental to community associations. We were able last spring to pare the bill down to the current 3 provisions that are pending. The major issues right now are 2 provisions that would allow homeowners to put flagpoles and political signs anywhere on a property that they have exclusive use. And our concern with that is that it prevents associations from being able to manage the common area, which they are responsible for, and maintain aesthetics of the property. And the third and most detrimental provision involves a weakening of the association's ability to foreclose properties based on fines or liens that they would place on a property for fines for violations.
Okay. I want to say something, Dee. I remember reading this last year. All of these 3 provisions included not only homeowners associations, but city governments, as I recall, the first version of this bill. Do you remember that? Am I dreaming this?
That does sound vaguely familiar.
The first
I know it
version
also involved rental properties.
That's right. The first version also was limiting the rights of city governments to limit flagpoles and political signs. And also landlords. It stated that landlords must allow renters to plant flagpoles
I think
and change the landscaping.
It was
pretty crazy.
I don't know. I don't have any information on this, but it just seems like there is sort of a desire when a new bill is introduced that I've seen that you try to first catch every.
I see.
Make that net as wide as possible, and then whittle it down from there.
But I'm impressed by the work done by the CAI LAC committee because you did clean out a lot of the deadwood.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So let's talk for a moment now. Senator Gerlach is writing this because he believes that he's going to be righting some wrongs here. Let's talk about that. We've probably heard a little bit, haven't we, with what some of the impetus is behind this bill, why someone feels that this is necessary at this time? Go ahead and share a little bit of that with our listeners.
Sure. It's my understanding that one of Senator Gerlach's constituents who lives in the district, lives in a single-family home in a master association, and kind of became upset at some of the rules and regulations that exist within her community and wanted essentially to get that changed. And living in the association that she does, instead of going to the board of directors and working through the channels that are outlined through the governing documents for getting an approval for an alteration, she has instead chosen to contact her legislators and try to change state law that would affect everyone that lives in community associations. And that's over 1 million people.
That's a very good point. She lives in a single-family home where she owns her lot, correct?
Right.
It's just there's an overall master association with rules. So that's a very different circumstance. She has total control over her yard, and she maintains her yard. That's a very different circumstance than someone who lives in a row house attached to other row houses who does not own their front yard, who does not maintain their front yard, but Senator Gerlach's bill wants to allow them to be able to plant a flagpole in that yard, right?
Right.
Now, I don't recall, do you, Dee, that there was any discussion or even any other anecdotal information given of other instances other than this one constituent's complaint in Mr. Gerlach's district?
No, I think that's correct. As far as I'm aware, Ms. Tompkins is the only one that has expressed these concerns.
Holy cow.
It just seems to be overkill, if you ask me, that a person doesn't first try to proceed what would be the easiest way to get something done, and probably much quicker than going through the state legislature.
Right.
But we know that the person who instigated all of this is a former state legislator, right?
Yes, she's a former member of the House of Representatives.
So
stick with what you know, right?
As my great spouse always likes to say, if your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
Well, let's talk for a moment, too. There is all of these issues that we're dealing with here that's housed in this bill really can be pared down to the idea of property rights. And I think we're talking about a case here where a constituent has said to their representative, hey, I feel that I have rights that are being violated here.
Sure.
And I think that idea of rights is overused so much. And I think that people kind of forget about the dynamics of a homeowners association. There's not just the rights of the individual, is there?
No, there's not. And I do understand the property rights aspect of this matter, but I think what's important to recognize is there's also contract rights involved. And when you purchase a unit in a homeowners association, you're contracting to exchange some of your property rights for the benefits of living in an association. And one of those benefits is having, the aesthetics of the association, the way that the majority wants them as outlined in the rules and regulations, and as governed by the board of directors, which are elected by the homeowners.
Right, that's right. Another benefit is that someone's taking care of that yard for you.
Sure.
Often, that's one of the benefits. Yeah.
Right, which may not be the
very
case
good point.
in Ms. Gerlach's family home association, but she did, buy into that association
but
knowingly.
You're right.
Knowing what the rules were. And this legislation does not draw any difference between someone who has complete control of their yard and someone who does not.
Nope, it does not.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point, Dee. We're talking about something that is basically a private contract between individuals.
Right.
And to me, that there seems to be a overstepping of the bounds. Why should the state legislature start getting involved in the private contracts between parties in this state? I think they're overstepping their bounds in a huge way, especially in this bill. That's what I think they're doing in essence.
I would agree.
Welcome to rental property management, you guys, where the state legislature has everything to say about our contracts with our customers. So let me ask you guys something. What was I going to ask you? Now I've forgotten.
I tell you what, you think about
I'll
that
think
for
about
a
that.
moment, and let's take a break while Tony's thinking, and we're gearing up here for more discussion here on Senate File 926, flags, political signs, and liens. We're going to talk about what some of the ramifications of this law, if it's passed, would be after these messages.